YouTube. Here I am, as promised a long time ago, but I need to really get started on that orc board I was talking about. I have decided I will take you along for the ride. It's probably going to be messy, but it's better than not putting any videos up at all. So right now it is December 1st, and I need to get these done by like January 20th or something like that. So I really need to get moving on it. It's actually my lunch break right now, that's why I'm all businessy. So you'll probably see a lot of lunch break recordings and early morning recordings and evening recordings. I just gotta get it in when I can. So the plan is, thankfully, the guy running the tournament said I don't actually have to do the full board if I don't want to. Just get some terrain done that I can get in this time frame, which is good because we're starting to look at houses again, and I'm probably gonna get a little stressed out. So I'm gonna do what I can so they have something new this year. So I'm gonna probably work on a couple of things all at the same time, but I'm gonna start with squig pit, just like a holding pen for squigs while they're not going off to fight. So I already have my squigs painted. So there's, I don't know, half a dozen of them and a little goblin guy to make sure they're going where they need to be going. So there's that, and then I think I'm just going to cut like a little crater type shape out of insulation foam. And I don't want a big rectangular base for it, so I'm going to use, this is actually an old game board for a board game that we don't have anymore, so I'm gonna kind of fix it to that so I can cut it into just like an obscure curvy shape, and then it still has some stability to be in storage and take some truck rides and stuff when the tournament's getting packed away. So that's the plan. I'm going to hot glue a couple of these pieces together so I have one big enough, and then take you over to the floor and we will use a hot wire cutter to get our shape. And that's probably all I'm going to have time before I'm going to get back to work, but that's the plan so far. Okay, I have those scraps of styrofoam that I just hot glued together so I would have a larger surface area to work with. I'm not too concerned about the joints on here because I do plan on covering this with a texture. So I just want the shape as a core building block, so to speak, for the texture on the outside. So if there's holes and stuff in here, I don't really care. And I just kind of sketched out the diameters that I'm looking for, and then I will kind of cut it at an angle. So we're kind of moving up a hill to the center spot that I will cut out, and then the squigs will sit in there. And while I cut, I'm going to kind of move my wire up and down. This way it'll cause ridges in the foam as I'm going around. And I'm trying to keep the bottom of the wire as close to the edge on the bottom as I can, because that will give us the least grade angle, so it's a shallower slope. I think it'll look a little more natural that way. This doesn't fit in there. crud. That was right where a joint happened, and there wasn't any glue there, so I'm kind of losing some of my curvy pieces. So I'm just going to go through and kind of clean up those edges so they kind of come flush to the ground instead of have that blunt edge. That's a little less obvious. And like I said, some of these gaps and stuff I'll be able to fill in. Now I want to cut out that center circle, and I'm actually going to use a different hot wire cutter for that. I really like this wire cutter. It doesn't take long to heat up, and it's easy to work with, but I can't get in the middle of anything with it. So that's why I use something like this. And I can just poke through the center and then work my way around. I should have had this in before because it takes a while to heat up. I was thinking too of cutting in like a ramp on one of these edges where you would like corral the squigs in to shove them down in the hole. So I'm probably going to work from the top down because this wire, I don't want to touch it, but it bends a lot. So this tip is less sturdy than what's at the base, so if that's wiggling down here, I won't care as much because you won't see it. I want to make sure this top part looks good. So I can just slowly poke it through and then kind of saw my way around slowly on the edges to work out the core. Probably gonna have to go back through and clean this up a little bit because, like I said, it's kind of bending. And I would prefer just a straight drop from like the crest of the hill down into the pit. It's not too bad. Ta-da! Probably end up putting the ramp here on this side because it's kind of flat right there. That'll help not make that so obvious, I think. So there we have the start of our little squig pit. Okay, so we have our shape cut out and I already glued it to my game board. I just used some hot glue and stuck it down real quick so I have a little more stability while I was working with it. And now I'm going to just kind of cut some slits in the side here to act as a ramp to kind of funnel the squigs into their pen. Okay, I have regret. I think I'm taking too much out. Because if I keep following this lower line, there's going to be a big gap in the edge of the hill. And I'd rather it was flush at the edge and just went down near the crater. I think. This is one of the benefits of recording on the fly. You can see all my mistakes. So I think I'm actually going to glue this chunk back in and try and rework the angle I'm cutting out. Like I said, it's okay if this is sloppy because I'm gonna cover it up. I just need a base shape to work with. So I'm gonna try and do that, and if that doesn't work, I'll just cut it out like I'm doing in the first place. And if that doesn't work, I'll just cut the whole crater again. I'm not too far along that I can't go back and start over yet, but let's try that first. Let's see if my hot glue gun is warmed up yet. Okay, let's see if I can do this. This game board's actually getting in my way right here, so I'm gonna cut that off. I'll end up cutting the whole thing out, but for now I just want this piece out of my way. I like that better. Okay, I just got rid of some bulk on the inside too. Okay, now I'm just going to cut out the rest of the edges. How's that for an obscure shape? Okay, let's talk about texturizing our form here. What I'm looking to accomplish with this orky terrain is a very filthy, muddy, dirty environment. So what I'm going to use is caulk. It's typically what you would use to seal your bathrooms or kitchen counters or bathroom counters, things like that. It's based with silicone. It's a silicone caulk. It is paintable. It says you can clean it up with water. That's always helpful. And you can get it in different colors, but I'm just going to choose clear and then add my own paint to it so that we can kind of tint it from the start. So I'm just going to mix, well, I'm going to squirt some out. I'm going to mix in a brown color and then just start spreading it on kind of like cake frosting. And then I also have a little cup of vinegar here. A friend of mine told me once that I'm sure there's like some chemical reaction or something that happens, but if I coat my finger with with vinegar, and then rub it on the silicone, it will smooth it out and not let the caulk stick to my fingers. So that's what this is here for, and hopefully that works out great because I don't want to clean that up. So yeah, I'm going to take this. Oh, and I have cling wrap down, just the plastic food wrap like you would use in your kitchen, so that when I do spread my silicone on, it won't stick to my work surface. I should be able to peel that plastic wrap right off without a problem. So that's what that's about. So I will just use my handy dandy caulk gun. I'm kind of running out, so hopefully I have enough to do this project and then run to the store later to finish the other ones. It comes out white, but it will dry like a hazy clear, kind of milky, translucent. Ooh, that's all I got. There are ones you can buy that say crystal clear, and those will dry more like a glass pane clear. I've used that type before for like rivers or doing water. I've spread some out thin on a piece of cling wrap, smoothed it out with vinegar, and then cut it out as a window pane on some old West buildings. It's kind of a neat material to use. It's pretty versatile, and there's a nice working time with it. So even if you didn't want it smooth, say you wanted to maybe form it into a shape, you could wait till it dries to a tacky state and almost kind of form it and mold it like you would clay. So that's kind of cool. I'm not too worried about getting that mixed thoroughly. I do plan on going over and repainting this to get like washes and highlights in there too, but I just wanted a base tint to start with. So now I'm just going to use a craft stick. Find a skinny one. I have these fat ones. Here we go. I'm just going to work on getting my basic layer of silicone down. Ooh, I forgot something. I wanted to mix in some tea grounds too, so that it has some texture to it, a little more dirt, to help out the messy feel. I don't know if that'll show up. There's little chunks in it now. Hopefully that won't look too weird. I think I'm gonna run out. That sucks. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning right now. I woke up at 2, couldn't sleep, and then kind of ran out of the internet, so I decided I should come up here and work on this. It crossed my mind to run to Walmart, oops, to get a few things. I don't even remember what those things are, but one of them might be more caulk. That sucks. Hopefully I can at least get the outside done, so that if I can't mix the same ratio of paint, if my browns don't match, that won't be so noticeable, because the sides of the inside and the bottom would probably be darker than the outside anyway. So let's at least shoot for that. Actually, what first gave me this idea, part of the versatileness of this silicone, another friend of mine was making a gaming mat that he could roll up and transport and then unroll and just throw on his table. And he used like a big square canvas, grabbed some of this silicone caulk, and then like rolled it on with a paint roller like you would paint your walls with. And his was just a snowboard, so he left it white and then sprinkled on some like fine stones or gravel or something like that. So that turned out pretty well for you know, the price point of the materials used and, you know, the time you put into it. If you just need a quick surface to play on, thought that was a pretty good idea. Okay, I think that's all I can scrape out for now. So let's try smoothing what we have out with the vinegar so that doesn't set looking like this. It's kind of gross, and not in a good way. So we will do that, and then, I don't know, what time is it? 3:45. I'll probably run to Walmart so I can finish this up, because I have a lot of free time today, so maybe we could get a couple things done. So let's do this for now. Okay, I am just repetitively dunking my finger in this vinegar. I do have some shit sticking to me, but it's not peeling off our styrofoam, so that's cool. And then I'm just very lightly dabbing onto the caulk. I'm gonna zoom in here so don't get sick. Hopefully you can see the difference between what was just applied with the craft stick and what's been texturized with my finger. So it's not completely smooth. I wouldn't want it to be. It would look fake that way. So there's some texture from like my fingerprint or the junk that's sticking to me is causing divots and grooves in the surface, which I think is great. So it looks less like birthday cake and more like a mud pit. I was thinking too, you could probably wrap your finger or, you know, whatever you want to use in more plastic wrap and press it on. That ends up really smooth. I don't like that as much. Maybe it would be okay. As long as you peel in the right direction, it seems to make some waves down the side of it. I like this way better. Okay, that's it. I think that's all I can do for right now. It's not looking too bad. So I'll just let this sit, and I guess I'm putting on real pants and going to the store. It's not really what I wanted to do 4 o'clock on a Saturday morning, but sacrifices need to be made, right? Sacrifices after I finish my tea. Okay, check with you guys later. So I had no intention of talking to the camera this morning, but I went to Walmart and it was a fucking experience. So I thought I should tell you about it. I went into the hardware department looking for more caulk and ended up contemplating my life because I wanted to get the same brand I was using, which they had. But it's not silicone caulk, it is latex. And they had silicone caulk, but it was not paintable. I feel like I normally use silicone, and I'm not sure why I bought this brand in the first place. So I feel like the vinegar trick is something I was taught in conjunction with silicone. So I was starting to worry that I might have screwed up my mud texture here, because it did kind of look like it was starting to curdle when the vinegar was meeting with the caulk. So I didn't know if I should switch to silicone so that the rest of it would work good, or if I have to trash this one, my second one would work well. But I thought I'd risk it. They're only $3, or 3 and a couple cents a piece. So I figured I'd just buy what I have, hope that the vinegar thing is working with it, and if not, I'll go back, buy silicone, start over, because we're not too far along, and I'm a perfectionist, so that was that. But then, while I was in the hardware department, I saw a rack of duct tape, and I don't know if you know this, but duct tape has like exploded thanks to like preteens and Pinterest. But you can get silicone duct tape in like all kinds of colors and patterns and pretty much anything you want. So from a distance I saw this duct tape rack and I thought it was pictures of pinup girls, like the old 50s style art they would paint on the side of planes and stuff, which I'm into. I like that a lot. I think it's cool. So I get excited and I go check it out closer. No, it wasn't pinup girls. It was One Direction, the little boy band. I just shook my head and walked on because A, that's sad that I thought they were nearly naked women from a distance, and 2, it was a wasted opportunity to have pinup girl duct tape. Someone should make that shit because I would buy that shit. So yeah, that was kind of the highlights of my Walmart trip. Actually, one more. I was coming into the store as this little short middle-aged lady was coming out. We were crossing paths. And you know, it's 4 o'clock in Wisconsin in December. It's dark, it's cold. No one should probably be out and about. So I'm just kind of minding my own business, going into the door, and she keeps trying to make eye contact with me, so I look up at her, and she's like, "Bah humbug." Yeah, I know. Like, I like her. I want to be friends with that lady. Can't wait till I can, you know, be old and crotchety, because it sounds like fun. So anyways, that was my excitement this morning. So I will, I guess, work up another batch of the caulk for the inside of this crater, and then we'll see if that works. And then if not, I'll probably start over and you guys will never see this rant. We'll see. Surprise, surprise. Okay, back to business. We might be okay. These parts that are darker and look gross is where it's dried, and it seems to be stable. Like, it's not being affected by the vinegar like I thought. So that's good. I did feel like it was easier when I was working. I'm trying to remember for like 5 years ago. But when I was working with a silicone caulk with the vinegar, it was easier to smooth on. I didn't get those extra clumps on my finger. I could smooth it into a pretty thin layer to use as a window pane. I'm guessing the way it was reacting with the latex version, that would not be as easy to do. So keep that in mind. Forget what I told you earlier. Then, okay, I did mix up another batch of caulk, and I purposely made it a darker brown than the first one, so that kind of enhances the depth a little bit. Once we put the squigs in, you know, they'll kind of gauge what scale it is anyway, but also there's some spots that are pretty thin around the edges from where I was trying to spread what material I had. So I'll probably go through and add a little extra in there too, and that way the colors will be varied a little bit, so that might help overall too. So let me just zoom back out so we don't miss any, wrong way, miss anything. And let's get going. Okay, to do the bottom, I'm actually going to add more black to my mixture. I already have some. To help with that illusion of making it seem really deep. I know it looks pretty gray right now, but remember that's part of the caulk problem. It comes out white and it'll dry clear, so kind of like this stuff up here is drying darker. This will darken up as it sets too. I'm gonna put some of this darker color up the path too, as if it got walked on a little more. Loading the squigs in and out. Some dots around the edges too, just because I can. I'm gonna start smoothing this second pass with the vinegar. Some of these spots that were still pretty wet from the first layer are a little too eager to come and peel off the foam, so you're gonna have to be real careful in those, but overall it wasn't too bad. I just remembered what else I was supposed to get from Walmart. Oh god. Sold the Xbox game on eBay and I don't have a nice box to put it in. Oh, I was gonna get a box. Son of a bitch. Okay, I think that's it. I've got it as good as I'm going to. Like I said, when it gets really wet, it starts peeling off the foam. So I'm gonna let this dry however long it needs, probably like a day, just because it's super saturated now, especially in the crater part where all the vinegar just kind of fell into. So I'm gonna let that dry and then start working on putting up a fence around it, and then actually attaching the squigs to the inside. So there are other ways of doing textures similar to this, like joint compound or spackle, like I like to call it. You could apply it pretty much the same way as the silicone. You would just frost it like a cake and then let it sit just for a little while so the surface can dry a little bit, and then use a damp paper towel, preferably one without a pattern or texture to it, and then use the paper towel to dab the surface to smooth out all the ridges and stuff from your strokes. So that's another technique you could use. I would highly recommend either mixing in PVA glue or brushing it on after the spackle has dried, because it will chip and you know, crack as the piece gets handled. That's one thing about the silicone. It is flexible. It might tear if like sharp edges get into it, but otherwise it kind of bounces back to shape. Plus it's something I had in-house right now. Spackle I'd have to go to the store for. I thought I had more caulk, so I went ahead to go to store today, but you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. So anyways, I'm gonna let this sit and then probably work on it another day. Hopefully one where I've had more sleep, but I'll see you at that point. Okay everybody, I just wanted to check in with you while I had some time here. We applied the caulk on Saturday morning. It is now Monday at lunchtime, and it's completely cured. There wasn't really an issue with the vinegar latex combo like I thought there could be, so that's exciting. There are a few thin spots where you can see the insulation foam through the latex, but once I paint it, that won't really be too much of an issue. I'll make sure that gets covered up. So that's where we are now. It's pretty resilient. I can jab my fingernail into it and it will bounce back quite nicely, so that's good. We can, I'll show you, I still have the plastic wrap on it. And we can just peel that off real quick so you can see that's not really an issue. I think cling wrap is probably the best bet for that. Anything like aluminum foil or wax paper or freezer paper, I wouldn't count on so well. Cling wrap works very nicely. It should only stick to itself in theory, but always do a test. So yeah, I'm pretty excited on how that turned out. Over the weekend, while I was trying to find a box to mail that stupid game out, I ended up emptying out one of my bits boxes with all my extra pieces and stuff in it, and realized I should probably put some skulls or broken shields or something, chocobo, into the hill, just for an extra eye-catching Easter egg kind of idea. So I might paint this up and then add some of those in, and then I will start working on a fence around the perimeter, and that'll just be craft sticks, and I'll probably either stain them with wood stain or like a dark black paint wash so it looks weathered and unkept. So we will walk through that together. I won't skip anything on any of that except maybe preparing the bits. I don't think you need to watch me file off mold lines or paint miniatures. That's not my department. So I will get working on that the next time I have time. these guys. A little goblin to guard them, poke them in their hole, things like that. I shouldn't say that. This is why I was a little nervous about recording things on the fly. Especially when I don't really have a plan in the first place. We can... shit.